Viessa is an absolute monster, hitting over 25 million damage to enemies with shield bubbles and hitting over 10 million damage to enemies on their own. So let me show you this Viessa setup I have used for absolutely destroying and dominating all of Void Purge. So let's get right on into today's video. So starting off with the Viessa build, let's get right on into it. For the Descendant modules, this is what you are going to want to go with. Now this will work in public as well as in solo. The reason we are using MP collectors because of course in public you'll be fighting for MP a little bit more, and in solo it's better to have a lot of MP than have none. Now you could also replace this with Dangerous Ambush if you would like, but that is optional. The rest of the build is basically just a fairly standard Viessa build. We only use one HP module here, but if you are really struggling, then I would suggest removing focus on chill and putting increased HP on instead. But this build should work quite nicely. The way you are going to play this is by specifically using your first ability to freeze everything, or your third, or your fourth, and then you're just going to run in and absolutely destroy everything by spamming with all of your abilities with Viessa. This will give you fairly high damage, as well as a lot of crits, everything you essentially need on Viessa. Plenty of crit damage, you know how it goes. So let's go on into the other aspects of this build. Next up, let's talk about the Reactor. For the Reactor, you are ideally going to want to use a chill and singular Reactor. The mounting doesn't really matter. I am just using the Secret Garden for the sprint speed. So that doesn't matter. You can use any stat stick weapon for speed. That's as good as it gets because we are using singular. Now for the two stats in the middle, chill and singular, as I said before. And for the stats on the bottom, you are going to want either cooldown, chill, singular, or even possibly range. Ideally you want cooldown and singular for max damage. Cooldown and range wouldn't be that bad either, but I don't think Viessa's range is necessarily that bad, so I would personally say skill cooldown and singular for the absolute max damage because it will hit harder that way. Next up, for your external components, we are using the Good All Slayer set. Now, in the gameplay I'm going to show you, I am going to be using the Slayer set. However, if you want to test and have a look at how it plays with a different set, this is what I would recommend for you guys. The other two sets that I would recommend is 2 pieces of a mage set as well as 2 pieces of a plague set. This is going to buff your singular damage and also buff your overall skill power. Now, this will not hit as hard as Slayer set, however your MP will just not be going down anywhere near as much, so this is another really nice alternative to be running with this build. If you do run these 2 components or these 2 pieces, I would recommend changing your build and then using Ambush on your build instead of MP Collector, because your MP will not be flying down as hard, so you should be good to be using this as an alternative. So for the Arche tuning tree, this is what you are going to want to go with, just full raw dog damage on Viessa. Now this modules or these nodes over here could change. You can go this way, you can go up like that, or you can go the other way. It really doesn't matter. You still get 2 MPs. Oh sorry, you still get 3 MPs and then the 3 for the crit rate and 3 for the crit damage. So that is essentially going to be what you want to run on your tree. For your inversions, you're just going to want to make sure you're running Adrenaline Rush, and then I personally like to use Biodensity Augmentation as well as Neural Focus Augmentation. So these are my 3 inversions. This build really does not require you to use any weapon, so honestly having just one stat stick for your sprint is completely fine, and in the gameplay you will not see me using any weapons anyways. So let's get on into some Purge gameplay. So let's get on into some Purge gameplay. Now I'm running this as a duo with my friend Luffy, who is playing Serena, just to show you that this build can even keep up with Serena as well. So we are just going straight into Purge. I'm making sure to activate my second ability. I activate my 4th ability in the first room, and then I make sure to activate my 3rd. I leave him to pick up the final elite, but you can see Viessa absolutely destroying in here. Now MP Collector is actually going to be quite important. When you are playing in a duo / squad, you want to make sure that Viessa runs a little bit ahead in order to spawn trap as many enemies as possible with her abilities, just like this. If you don't spawn trap, then Serena can still obviously you know, take every single kill, but Viessa ideally wants to be doing this to recover her own MP. Like I said, MP Collector is actually going to be quite important in this build, or alternatively if you do use the 2 pieces of mage and 2 pieces of plague, then you can easily get away with using ambush and get even crazier damage numbers. Damage numbers, however, are not a problem with Viessa. Like I said, this skill build is absolutely it's monstrous. You can see them 25 mils and 10 mils to the regular mobs over there. Now I hear you say, but you only hit 25 mil on a shield. Well, here is a 10 mil on a mob right there, and then you can see that the damage there it still exists, especially with Viessa's third ability. And just whenever mobs spawn, you can absolutely delete them with Viessa's third ability regardless. Now you can see us making our way through. We are almost done with Purge. Now, if you do follow exactly what I do, you might be able to hit some nice spawns and, you know, get a ton of kills. But I do say that experiment with it yourself a little bit more, and that way you will see what is ideally best. Make sure to be using Viessa's 1 because it is incredibly capable for mobbing, as well as hitting stuff hard. And because it has like little to basically zero cooldown, it is definitely a really good ability to use. Now you can see here, I'm not using anything other than my skills. Almost taking a death there from these elites, but no problem, my friend. Viessa has this, no problem. So, on to the final boss fight for this run. So you can see here, 3 mils everywhere, 5 mils on the boss. Just spamming your third ability with the little head glitching thing will work very, very nicely, as well as using Viessa's fourth to absolutely destroy all of the mobs that spawn in, and you can call it a day from there. You can see that this run was fairly quick, a sub 3-minute run, and on top of that, over 1 billion damage with Viessa. This woman is freaking great at Purge, and let's do one more run to show you this again. Okay, so time for round 2. Me and Luffy are again running another duo, so this is how it's going to go this time. Same story, you just want to ideally just get used to using Viessa inside of Purge. I think that is going to be the biggest thing that will help you out. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar and will want to experiment with a lot of characters inside of Purge, which, don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. However, I do think that Viessa is probably one of, if not the best, for Purge. And again, you saw plenty of damage over there, and again right over there. You see, the damage on Viessa is never going to be an issue, but just Purge is so fun to run, specifically with Viessa. Now, you can see here we're already making some pretty good time. My abilities are coming through, and so is Luffy's amazing talent that's playing with Serena. My guy is cracked, forgive him. But yeah, you can see here, just taking advantage of absolutely everything and just deleting everything with Viessa, and basically just making Serena play a little bit of cleanup is honestly a fair playstyle with Viessa, just because she will freeze everything and she will keep doing DOT, which is what she's primarily based off. You can see here I'm basically spawn trapping all the mobs, and then the elite just gets taken care of. Same with here, you can spawn trap mobs very effectively with Viessa, especially in these smaller rooms, so I would definitely say it is worthwhile to do that. Now we're almost at the end of this run again, so you can see here I'm just waiting and vibing for my abilities to essentially take over, because like I said, you don't need a single weapon for this. I'm just holding that secret garden for that sprint speed, and that is literally it. Apart from that, I really couldn't care less about whatever weapons inside of my hand. But here you can see we are in the final room again. I placed my hurricane dead in the center just for the maximum amount of damage. Any odd strays here, just take care of them with abilities. Same story. Now you can see here I was actually running a little bit lower on my MP, so I did decide to actually use a weapon just to, you know, keep the run kicking. But you really don't need to. If you've got the setup and everything, you don't really need to run anything other than your abilities. But anyways guys, that's basically in this video, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do smash that like button, and if you're new here, please do consider subscribing. I make plenty of guides on the first Descendant, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!